Welcome to the podcast. I am so grateful and honored to have you here today.
Thank you.
For those who are listening and that don't know, Michelle Werdyger-Vais is actually a colleague, somebody that I went to school with. My
Intern.
internship.
Yeah.
And since then, we have been in touch in terms of peer supervision, helping each other out throughout the journey. And this is kind of what therapists do, of course, while maintaining confidentiality
Of
and not
course.
sharing any of those stuff. But just even sometimes it's talking with somebody who gets it. Because in
Yes.
all honesty, when I come home and see my wife or see my family, a lot of the times, well, I can never really share what I'm experiencing in session because that's something I talk with my supervisor about,
Yes.
because that's really important to be able to make sure I'm kind of giving to my clients from a full vessel. But
Yeah.
talking to another therapist, there's just something, uh, a
It's a
common language.
community.
There
It's a
we go. It's a
community. We
community.
get it.
That's a great word. And why I'm so excited and happy to have you here today is because I think you have such a special, unique take on therapy. You do it with so
Thank
much
you.
um, humbleness, and you make the person feel comfort and safe, and a little bit of humor here and there, which of course
We need
lends
humor, right?
100%.
But thank
Which
you so much for having me.
it's my absolute pleasure. Um, and today I really wanted to talk about a very important topic. And the topic is from stress to success.
Yeah.
And there's no one else I would want to speak with today about this because every single time we talk on the phone, well, how do I always end the session, the phone
The
call?
session.
I honestly feel it's a
Yes, it
session.
is a session. You
What do
say
I always?
we gotta make a
We got
podcast.
to make a
So
podcast.
congrats to you. You're making it happen.
Thank you so much. And this, by the way, you know the journey. We talked about this over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
And then finally, it happened, and here it is.
I
And the
feel like it's
reason,
perfect for this podcast. From stress to success. It's the
hun-
story of this podcast, is
look
it
at
not?
that's perfect. And I was really hesitant to start a podcast because there's so many people doing podcasts. There's so many people who have a platform. And that's a bully in my head. Like
Yeah.
who would want to listen to you, Avi? Well, obviously everyone would want to listen to my
No.
guest, but in reality, it's like, oh, here we go again. Here's another podcast. Why are you doing this?
So that's the
But
bully, right?
yeah, definitely, that is the bully in my head saying those things those negative voices. And I feel like as people, almost every person that I talk to, they each have their own bully in their head.
Yeah. We all have our own inner
Yeah,
critics.
yeah, 100%. And when we were talking on the phone, and every time you just had this way of just relaxing the situation and making it feel just so calm and so peaceful with like your sense of humor. And that's why I said, you know what, Michelle,
Thank you, Avi.
I want you to be able to share this with the public, with the crowd, because I definitely know you have that it factor.
That's so nice.
Of course. And I really
Mm.
genuinely mean it. So when we think about stress and life, right? We all, like you said, when we were talking, everyone wants to
Everybody
be happy.
experiences stress,
And
yeah,
and
and everybody wants to be happy. It's
you know,
that I think according to ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, there's something called the happiness trap, where we all have this goal of being happy.
yeah.
Um,
So I agree. I think as humans, when you ask anyone, what do you want? Everyone usually says, I just want to be happy.
yeah,
I posted something recently that said, being happy is learning to accept your situation, even though it's not the best circumstance, and learning to be content and at peace about where you are, even though, yes, you can improve, you can grow, but allowing to fully love and accept yourself for who you are and where you're at life. And know that, yes, if
yeah.
you're a
That's a
person
journey, though.
yeah,
That's a hard place to get to.
tell me about that.
Yeah, I think that this leads back into the idea of the happiness trap, where if you think about emotions, we have many emotions, and most of them are challenging. People like to call them negative emotions, but they're really just challenging, right?
Mm,
We all experience stress, we all experience sadness, frustration. These are all normal experiences, but of course, everyone's chasing that happiness.
yeah.
So what ends up happening is that there are times we feel really happy, but there are also times because we're human that we feel stressed, we feel sad, and that kind of feels like we're just not succeeding.
Mhm.
But who says? Like we can be, happiness, that's what the goal of happiness
Yeah.
can kind of get us
One of
set
my
back,
one of my
because it's an emotion, right? It's not a goal. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry for cutting you
No,
off. Yeah.
I agree with you. One of my favorite movies, and I know you might laugh because here I am, a grown man who's saying, one of his favorite movies is a cartoon. You probably watched it Inside Out.
Love Inside Out.
Absolutely love that movie. I think it's brilliant. For those of you guys who are watching or listening, make sure you go watch that movie. I think it had such a great way to show people what's going on in their head, because it's interesting because I have this picture frame in my office, and there's pictures of a bunch of different chairs, and every chair has a label like anger, happiness, sadness, all different types of emotions. And when my clients come in, oftentimes I'll tell them, which chair are you sitting in
Oh,
today? Who's in the driver's seat today?
yeah.
And oftentimes people want to feel that they can achieve success, but they feel stuck. They feel like, is that even possible for me? So I know, as a therapist who works with people struggling in that dark place and feel like, I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel unstuck.
Yeah.
What's the process? What's your way of guiding a person from feeling stuck and being in that dark place to letting them know that you're gonna be just okay. You're gonna be extraordinary.
Mm. I think that the first step in anybody when they're feeling stuck is to just really normalize and validate and get to know what they're experiencing. A lot of people feel very alone in
Mm,
their stress or in their feelings because, especially with social media and everything, there's this image, there's this
mhm,
idea of like everybody's lives being perfect.
mhm.
So I think that that makes it even more difficult for people who are challenging, who are experiencing challenges.
Yeah.
Um, so I think normalizing that this is a normal emotion. Of course, some people experiencing it more chronically and to more extremes, but we all experience stress on some level.
Mhm,
So I think that's the first step is really just validating, normalizing that there's nothing wrong with them.
mhm.
And then after that, it's really just delving in, figuring
Yeah.
out everybody's different. So it's figuring out what their triggers are, what helps, what their values are. Values are a big one
Yeah.
because even when we're stuck, there's always a small way. And this is an ACT concept, which is there's always a small way to act on a value.
Mhm.
So no matter what.
When people feel like they don't have something to look forward to, when you ask them, what do you want to do with your life? What do you feel like is holding you back? Oftentimes people say, I really don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really uninspired. I feel like nothing speaks to me.
Hmm.
I feel like there's no hope for me. Of course, that's a combination of stress, feeling overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
feeling like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not here. Yeah, I am a therapist. You're a therapist, but it's not that about. I'm not here about just selling therapy. I'm here about giving people, just sharing the research that I've done throughout the
Yeah.
years. That's really what it is. It doesn't make me any more superior than anyone else.
No, we're regular
Just
people, right?
100%.
And we
And
experience all the same emotions that everyone else does.
absolutely. And I feel like when people realize that with changing their fixed mindset, they're able to get themselves to where they want to be.
Hmm.
I know we talk a little bit about that fixed mindset. Share with us what your thoughts are about that.
I think you spoke about the movie Inside Out earlier,
Mhm.
and that is a great representation of something called IFS. That is internal family systems, and this concept that we are all multiple. We all have different parts of us,
Mhm.
and it can sound a little quirky and a little weird. And when I tell this to my clients, they're like, "What?" Some of them really get it on an intuitive level.
Mhm.
But it's just this concept that the stress is not all of us. We are not,
Mm.
even though when people say I am stressed,
Mhm.
that's the stress is just sitting on them really hard.
Mhm.
But they are not stressed. They are who they are. And then a part of them is kind of sat into the driver's seat, and that's the stressful part that's driving it. But if they are to look inside, there's other parts of them. So there might be that stress part, and then there's another part that really, feels a certain way about the stress, that really wants to drive that stress away, and we find that there's all these different layers. And when we get to kind of unwrap layer by layer,
Mhm.
we find that these are just parts. And when a person can make a decision without the part sitting on them, there's usually so much more there.
Yeah, oftentimes in session when I work with people, and let's say a person tells me, "I lost my job. I don't know what I'm going to do now. My relationships are messed up because of it.
Yeah.
I can't stand my kids at this time. I just need some peace and quiet. I don't want to see anyone. Everything irritates me because they lost their job." So, based on what you're saying now, when we look at ourselves as parts,
Yeah.
we have multiple parts to ourselves. Yes, you lost your job, and your job is just one part of you.
Yes.
You have the hobbies that you love to do, don't stop doing those. Your relationship with your spouse, don't stop working on that. Your relationship with your kids, just even you and Mother Nature. You going outside, going to
Yeah.
take a walk, something like that to be able to kind of re-inspire you. What are your thoughts about people who feel overwhelmed and stressed out and uninspired to take the next step?
Mm.
Whatever in whatever area that may be. For example, work or a project that they wanted to do. Oftentimes when I talk with people, they say, years ago I had a dream to do
Mm.
ABC, but I never got to it.
Yeah. My question would be what got in the way or what's getting in the way.
Mm.
There's usually something that's getting in the way. But that it's also, it's never too late. We can always be re-inspired. Inspiration kind of it comes at us. So I think that it's never too late to give up, and we can always get to the bottom of it.
So I like that first piece you said. What got into the way, right?
Mhm.
I feel like people are already at the end of the scenario where they feel like, oh, that's what I wanted to do, and now I can't do it, so I'm just giving up.
Yeah.
But really, the piece is what got into the way? And is that something that we can fix now? So this way, you can really go and achieve whatever it is that you want. And like you said, it's never too late. Just give it a shot. Test yourself. Put yourself in those positions. Oftentimes, when thinking about stress, and yeah, there are different levels of stress. There's acute stress where there's also like everyday stress, sitting in traffic,
Oh yeah.
being late to work, coming into Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts and seeing that there's a
Doing
long
a
line.
podcast.
Doing a podcast, definitely, right? Because
Well, I don't know if that's an everyday stress, by the way, but it's
well, you know what I mean.
it's there.
It's there. Well, for whatever, every person has their own experience of what's stressful, right? But there's certain things I love to give this example to my clients of. There's a concept of a circle of control,
Mhm.
right? There are things that we can control, and there are things that we cannot control. So, for example, the way we respond to people. That's fully in our control. The certain boundaries we set, that is fully in our control. But can we control the weather? No. Can we control how somebody else is going to behave? No, we can't. We might be able to ask them, like, to your kids
We
or
can
to your
influence
spouse.
other
We can
people, but we
influence,
can't change
but we
them.
can't. In the end of the day, we can't change behavior, right? We can't control things out of our circle. So, in a situation like this, where you have this idea in your head that you're trapped, that you're stuck, that you're a prisoner, and you can't go forward, it's about identifying what is it that kept you a prisoner. And once you're able to target it, it's allowing yourself to be in that uncomfortable space.
Yeah, to sit with the discomfort. I have to tell you, my friend Anxiety, when I walked in here, I was like, "Okay, I see you're not leaving. You may as well just, like, come in along with me." But,
Okay.
as you sit there and, like, the anxiety is like, "Okay, you're kind of accepting me, I see. So, like, I have a crisis to get to across the street." So, it settles down, right? So, sometimes when we make space for an emotion as opposed
Mhm.
to I don't know, I'm a '90s kid, so do you remember those finger traps they used to give
Oh,
us?
yes, yes,
So
yes.
you couldn't get your hands out of those finger traps.
Uh-huh.
The only way to do it is to loosen your grip on each side.
Wow.
And, I love that analogy with anxiety too, because the more we fight it and we're just like looking at it as like, I'm stuck, I want to be unstuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. Well, we kind of get stuck in that loop of the narrative. But really our minds are just like I think I said earlier, like they're like these overly helpful friends. And they're just trying to help us out, trying to perceive threat and try to fix it. But when we make room for the emotion, where it's like, okay, well, I'm anxious now, so come on, come along. I guess it's you and I together.
Hmm.
It settles down because it doesn't feel shoved out. Our mind doesn't like to think, don't, the perfect example of like you can think about anything right now, just not a purple elephant.
The first thing that came into my head was a purple elephant.
Yeah, and I don't think you thought about purple elephants very
I
frequently
didn't.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just our mind doesn't like to be told what not to think about. So the more we try to shove it into the recesses and fight against it, it's like that finger trap where we
Mhm.
can't get out.
Just
So
accept it. Accept that
accepting
uncomfortable feeling.
it's normal. It's normal. It's going to be there, and because we're doing something that is either challenging or or it makes sense for the situation.
So one of the biggest fears for people is public speaking,
Oh yeah,
right?
I think it's right up there after the fear of dying. By the way,
Oh,
I
okay.
looked it up.
Look at that.
I have to check my facts, but
So the fear of public speaking. So what do you think? What are some of the fears that come into a person's mind when they have this fear?
we well, I'm not sure. Everybody probably sees it differently, but what I would think is, the way we're perceived is a big
Mm,
thing. A lot of people are concerned about how they're perceived, especially in today's day and age with social media and all that. Everyone's into their image, and getting up and speaking in front of a lot of people with so many opinions, it's hard to make everyone like you.
yeah.
That can be overwhelming.
Yeah. So also the feeling like people will judge you
Uh huh.
for who you are, for what you say, for how maybe for how you look, for what you do, and that voice in your mind. Oftentimes, we are our biggest critic.
Yeah, it's kind of wanting to protect us, right? So in the terms of looking at parts, that part that wants to take you away from the public speaking, it's trying to protect you somehow too, right? It's trying
So
to get you away from that, like that prying eye.
one of the helpful strategies that we use in therapy is the SMART technique.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
So you mean like in goal
Yeah.
setting?
So when we set goals, we want to be able to um, share. We want to be able to set specific goals. We want to make sure they're measurable. Go ahead. You can take it away.
Oh, it's okay. Achievable or actionable. We want to make sure it's realistic and relevant, and you want to make sure it's within a required time frame. And one of the best acronyms, I know we're going to be big on acronyms right now, is KISS. I
Uh-huh.
remember learning that in grad school. Loved it. Is keep it simple, stupid. Can I say stupid on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You're
So
safe here.
I'm kidding. No. So it's just kind of that's the idea of this. Instead of when you talk about these overarching goals that people have and feeling stuck, sometimes we have to look at those goals and say like, how can we break that down? Great. How can we break that down even more?
Right.
And it's really just about baby steps. What happens is sometimes their big goals just seem so unsurmountable, seems not achievable.
Yeah.
It's like, why bother trying? But if we're looking at a goal and break it down as small as possible, it's much easier to get where we need to go.
And there's always a way to break it down as small
Even
as
smaller.
possible.
Even smaller. Yeah.
So one of the techniques that I use with my clients fairly often is doing exposure therapy. The fear of animals, the fear of driving on the highway, the fear of going to the gym, the fear of being in a social place, right? So those are some of the things that I help my clients be in a space where their body's talking to them. Their body's telling them, I'm really uncomfortable. I want to run. I want to just get out of here. That fight or flight response. And just allowing your body to be exactly where it is. Just notice that panic coming up. Of course, in certain cases, and this is what I hear often, I've been doing this for a while now, and almost every time I feel like I'm going to faint. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Not once did someone actually throw up.
Yeah.
This is something your mind tells you. And oftentimes, recognizing the anxiety, recognizing that stress that's coming up for you, doing
Yeah.
some specific techniques like breathing, some mindfulness.
Well, you had just mentioned one earlier. I don't know if you noticed it. There's some concepts called name it to tame it, which is
okay.
Neuroscientists actually found that like when we are able to say this is anxiety, what you just said,
Mhm.
our brain sends it's the neurotransmitters. It actually sends the message to calm down
Mhm.
the brain. When it's able to label that anxiety, it's able to send the message down to the brain to calm down. So sometimes just naming it something will tame it. So just noticing like I am anxious, because the thought of like I'm going to throw up, I'm going to pass out, that's not naming it. That's just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? When you're able to say this is anxiety, okay, that's what this is. It can automatically calm the body down.
So let's say in session,
Yeah.
what would mindfulness and a mindfulness exercise look like?
Oh wow, there are so many. So what can I start off just talking a little bit about
Yeah,
mindfulness?
of course.
Yeah, so mindfulness, when we think about anxiety, our minds are usually not present. It's either
Mm.
in the future, what if this happens? We come up with so many cool scenarios of crazy things that can happen. But because most people are realistic, it's going to be within the realm of possibility, which makes it kind of worse.
Mhm.
Because these are all things that technically can happen, but
Mhm.
are not very likely.
Mhm.
And then that's when we are thinking with anxiety in the future. And sometimes we're ruminating in the past. Oh, I can't believe I said that. oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Like that was awful. So when we're being mindful, it's the exact opposite, and we're in the here and now. So
Mhm.
that is literally. I wonder, so many times, people are so busy with everything. It's kind of like they have every tab open in their brain.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I heard that from a neurologist.
Do you want to try it now?
Try what? Mindfulness?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So basically, it's just about being present. So,
Okay.
um,
Guide me through it.
guide you through. There's a few that So just we can do the easy one. That's
Okay.
like I said, we're keeping it simple.
Okay.
Is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise.
Okay.
So, but first I'm going to ask you if you're
I'm like
noticing.
adjusting in my chair, making sure I'm all comfortable. Here we go. Okay,
All
ready?
right. So first, do you
Okay.
notice, and this is
Yeah.
itself mindfulness. Are you noticing any areas of discomfort in your body?
Any areas of discomfort?
Yeah.
Let me notice.
And take all the time you need to just
Okay.
notice, because we're doing a lot of talking, so we're not really checking in right now.
I think what I'm noticing is I want to make sure as a podcast host, I'm saying the right things.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm speaking into the mic.
Oh, am I speaking to the mic?
I think you're fine. I want to make sure I'm saying the right things. I'm one of the things that's coming up for me is, am I whatever I am thinking, is it coming across the way it's supposed to
Uh,
for someone listening?
okay. So you're concerned about your viewers. So then that's all that thinking, right? That's
Yeah.
happening. There's a lot of noise going on in your mind.
Hmm.
So just notice that that's there, and that's
Okay.
normal chatter.
Okay.
And what I'm going to ask you to do is to notice 5 things around this room, if that's
Okay.
okay,
Yeah. Sure.
that are, oh, I'm not going to choose a green because there's lots of green. A red.
That
Find
are
5
red.
red
Okay.
things.
So I have this ball that's red, which we might get to soon.
Okay.
I have this box of cards, which we might get to soon too. I see this like piece right over here by the mic stand. Something red. Well, the chair is red. Is that
Nice.
4?
Good
And this
noticing.
box is 5. Look
Great
at
job.
that.
Yeah. So and notice that these were not things you were paying attention to earlier.
100%.
So now we have 5 things that we can see. And
And what's interesting, I noticed when I was looking for the red color, there was nothing else I was thinking about.
okay.
It was all about just find something that's red.
Yeah, it's simple, right? It's just find something that's red. We want to find a visual cue in our environment to ground us. This is a grounding technique too. It brings us back down when we're feeling elevated. So the next thing is 4 things that you can feel. So that might be the chair underneath you. It could be
Yeah, so I feel the chair underneath. Well, me sitting on the chair.
supporting.
I feel my feet touching the floor.
Yeah,
I feel my elbows resting on the armrest. Is that 3? And then I feel my glasses on the bridge of my nose.
perfect. And then so the next thing is that 3 things that you can hear. That can be a little hard when we're in this
Okay.
room, but let's try it and see.
Sure. I hear the sound of my voice through these headphones. And then I hear there's like a little buzzing sound
Yeah.
in the background. Do you hear that? And
I hear
then
that
just
too.
now I heard your voice. So 3.
Yes, I helped you out over there.
Thank you for that.
And then the last 2 are sometimes hard to do. It's
Right.
because it's like any scents that are in the air,
Mhm.
and then the taste where you can actually take it. You can take a sip of
Yeah.
your water,
Yeah.
but it just really grounding yourself with the 5 senses.
Yeah. So sometimes in session when I do this exercise, which by the way, I absolutely love, and it was nice to experience that. Someone like
All right.
guiding me through it. I would say if there's something that you can't smell at this moment, share with me something that you would like to smell.
Okay. So then go
So I
ahead.
love the smell of like citrus or like a lemon. That's something that, or this might be controversial, but like mint leaves.
Okay.
I
It's what you
love
like to
that.
smell, not
I
what
love that.
everyone likes to
Well,
smell.
I'm saying like that. Do you ever have like Nana tea? Oh my, it's one
Yes.
of my favorites, right? So
So
that's
now have you tried to bring
yeah.
that scent up? Yeah.
You know what's interesting? What I just noticed.
Did you smell it? Is that what you're gonna
I
say?
noticed when I thought of that smell, it just put me into this like happy place.
Yeah.
It put me into just like this like
You're able to experience
just like,
that calm.
I really was.
That's
I
awesome.
feel so much better.
Yeah.
I
So
think you should be a therapist.
I thought about it and then I'm like, I don't know, these therapists, I'm not sure.
I think this was really helpful, and I feel like it definitely relaxed me in a way where I feel like, oh, like we're just, 2 people in a room talking about mental health
Yeah.
and the importance of just allowing yourself to go through whatever it is. If you're a person listening, and now we're talking directly to our listeners. If there's anyone out there, and I'm speaking directly to you, if there's something holding you back, and if there's something telling you that you're not going to be able to do it, just know that there is a concept of resilience,
Mm.
and comebacks absolutely exist. Oftentimes, people feel like just because they messed up
Mm.
and just because the relationship didn't work out the way it was supposed to,
Yeah,
or
supposed to is a buzzword, right? Because that's a rule we put for ourselves.
absolutely. And if the job that you wanted, that perfect job that you thought you were going to get and you didn't land it, or that house you thought you were going to buy, but you didn't have the funds for it, and you're now not able to achieve your goals, just know that your time will come. There's a concept in mental health that mental health is a journey,
Yeah,
it's not a destination.
love that.
And I would love to hear how you process that with the people you work with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that hope is a big word, right? But I think you said it really well that mental health is a journey and not a destination. Is that we kind of have to kind of trek along the way, and we figure things out, and sometimes it looks different. We have to take a different route, make a detour. Sometimes we got to go back for something we left behind, and it's a journey, not a destination. We have to scale like the ups and downs, like ride the waves, and that it's a journey in progress. It's
When we think of resilience and the fear of failure,
okay.
um, in my office I have another picture. I'm big
Yeah, I
on
see you're big on
art,
pictures
right?
in your office. It's
I'm big
great.
on art. It just I feel like sometimes I'm very big into visual. This is how I learn,
Yeah.
and I added my own touch into my own therapy sessions. And this is what I say oftentimes: a therapist. When you find your therapist, it's like finding like how can I say this? But like finding the right match, right?
Yes,
Just
it
like
has to
you would date a
be.
person that needs to feel right. It's the same concept with a therapist,
Yes.
with of course disclaimer with the proper boundaries, obviously,
Oh, of
right?
course. Yes, let's
I
add that part.
just wanted to be very
Yes, it's
clear.
not the same as finding your match.
Right.
Exactly. But the concept is
The,
that there's got to be that rapport.
exactly. And the first concept of building rapport with a client and the therapist is extremely important because, in the end of the day, a person who's working with a therapist wants to know, can I trust this person?
100%.
Especially in the beginning where you're strangers and you want to know, here I am going to share all my vulnerabilities, my insecurities, things that I possibly never shared with anyone. And here I am in a room. I'm going to tell you all the things that are going on in my life. Sometimes that can feel scary.
Yeah.
So in my office, one of the visuals that I have is it's a one picture, but there are two parts to the picture. On one side, there's a straight line
Uh-huh.
going up, and it says there expectations.
Mhm.
And on the other side, it's like a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old just scribbled all over the paper,
Yeah.
right? And it starts from the bottom, but then there's a scribble, and then eventually, kind of, you see the arrow going upward, right? And then that's labeled reality.
Yes.
Oftentimes, when people come into therapy or just in life, when people say, this is a great one, right? I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to go to the gym,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Or I'm going to do some self care for myself, right? And they start off the first couple of days and they feel like, okay, I'm pumped, I'm motivated, everything is good. And then something happens and messes it up and it crashes and they feel like, you know what? This is not working out for me.
Yeah.
I'm
We're gonna
done.
check it out the window.
Chuck it out the window.
Yeah.
And in reality, that's not what it is. The whole idea of mental health and working on yourself is allowing yourself to just be in that space, be in that journey of self discovery and finding yourself out. Who are you through this journey?
Yeah, progress is not linear, right? It can look like a lot of ups and downs, but you'll see along the line that it's going in the right direction.
So, what are some of the stories you can share with us when it comes to resilience?
Resilience.
Let's put the therapist in the hot seat.
Huh. Well, let's not put me in the hot seat. Hmm, I have to think.
Okay.
Let's. I'll do a therapist move and throw that right back at you, Avi.
Oh my goodness, what a therapist.
I'm kidding. We don't actually always do that in therapy, but the resilience. I will share. I actually I'm just gonna try to think because I don't want to give an answer that's not genuine and not real, and I don't want to just. I really want to think about that. So it's a really great question. But actually, I did hear something about resilience just today. That's what's coming up in my mind right now, and that's that. And I think I'm giving away the punchline by starting it this way. But there was a study done with adults and children, and the question was is what makes someone most successful? It was not emotional intelligence, it was not IQ, it was not social support, it wasn't a lot of things. It wasn't being great looking, it wasn't being athletic. It was grit,
Mm.
resilience, the ability to stand up and every time you fall. That was one of the biggest predictors of success. In terms of my own story, I have to think, but since you came up with the question, I wonder if you already have your own answer prepared.
Sure. Well, I didn't have it prepared, but now that
Because
you're
you didn't expect me to throw it back at you.
I did
I'm
not.
sorry.
But now that you're putting me in the hot seat, I'll tell you resilience. Um, hmm. I would say let's say an exam, okay? Where I felt like I studied for an exam, I really tried hard, and I failed by 1
Oh
point.
no, that's
And
difficult.
I felt like I don't get it. What's wrong with me? How did I not get it? I failed by 1 point and I studied and I thought I was going to
Yeah,
make it and I failed by 1 point. And of course, you know what I did? I took the time I needed
yeah,
to regroup, to allow myself to just be in that space, and then I started again.
yeah.
And not only did I pass the exam, but I did a lot better than I thought I
Nice.
would. And I feel like because I kind of redid it, it made me a much better person in that area.
Yeah, you grew
So
more.
so I feel like sometimes when we feel like it's a failure and we messed up, actually I feel like it's like a slingshot. It kind of pulls you back a little bit, but when you're going, you're soaring, you're going
Yeah,
up.
I love that analogy.
So allowing yourself to understand that when we fail, that's not you didn't mess up. That is exactly part of the journey.
That is part of the journey. That actually, yeah, that's a great example, and thanks for sharing that and for allowing me to put you in the hot seat because now I actually can share. But this is a kind of an ongoing journey of resilience, and I think that thank God as a parent, this is something I face every day. It's kids will push all the buttons. They're very
Mhm.
good at it. They're
Yeah.
adorable and they manage to push all the buttons. And then sometimes you find yourself reacting. I find myself reacting
Mhm.
in ways that I'm like, okay, can we try that again? Like take two. And
Ooh, okay.
I realized that, and one of the best things that I've learned actually about relationships, and the most helpful things, and I think it might be helpful for our viewers too, is the concept of rupture and repair.
Mhm.
And that is the concept that people might think that perfect attachment, perfect parenting is never messing up, never making a mistake. But on the contrary, they find that every relationship has this cycle of rupture, repair,
Mhm.
rupture, repair, rupture, repair, where we're making mistakes and we're fixing them. And the simple words of "I am so sorry"
Mhm.
can be so helpful for children to
Yeah.
hear. There are so many children that there are so many adults out there, I think, that their life would be very different if they just heard those words that "I'm sorry." You know, mom was stressed, dad was stressed, and I think that is very helpful in terms of resilience is, trying again.
I believe many couples, one of the challenges that they face is communication.
Uh-huh.
That's one of like the top challenges that many couples
Of
face.
course, yeah.
And oftentimes, many parents feel guilt
Mm,
that they fight in front of their children
mm.
and want to know, like, what do I do in this situation where my children are seeing us fight and it's causing harm for them? The problem is, yes, of course, a healthy communication would be great,
Yeah.
but the main thing when they see in a relationship that you guys are fighting and or let's call it arguing, the most important thing that they need to see is that you're also repairing the
Yes,
relationship
yes, exactly.
because that's really what life is. There's ups and there's downs. As long as they're able to see that you are able to repair the relationship, that's the key. That's the main takeaway.
Yeah.
Because when we mess up, you're still able to change and grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's every relationship we have is about that cycle of being able to and think about it that brings you closer. The the miscommunications, the trying to fix it, rectify it and apologize, that brings you closer than you were before. You learn something new about the other person, they learn something new about you and that's just the journey of life and I think that that's a perfect analogy to what we were talking about all, this time is that when things aren't working perfectly according to plan, there's this concept of repair. And I think that might help some of the people, people who feel stuck. We can
Absolutely.
repair.
Absolutely. It would be so cool if we learned many of these concepts in school. Just like we have math and science and history and English, it would be so awesome if schools would teach a stress management class for
Yes,
kids and even for teens. But unfortunately, they don't teach that.
right?
And oftentimes, kids don't have, or even adults don't have the necessary tools that they need to be able to deal with their stress and emotionally regulate properly. So sometimes you may need support. A person may need to talk to somebody, a professional in the field, not necessarily because the therapist is better than them.
No,
A therapist is a researcher. A therapist is somebody who's read the research, done the studies, went through the schooling. That's what sets them apart. That's what makes them different. And that therapist can guide you through it. Of course, there's also the life coaches. I always like to tell me if this makes sense. I like to give an example, like the difference between a life coach and a therapist,
mhm,
right? I know this might be controversial, but I feel like think of a house on fire, right? And when the firemen come, they need to put the fire out, right? I feel like the life coach just says, let's put the fire out and get you going from here.
mhm.
The therapist is someone who helps put the fire out and tries to understand how did this fire get started. And that's kind of what a therapist does, goes into kind of your childhood, understands the background. What happened that caused you to feel like you're not worthy enough? You're not able to stand up for yourself. You're not able to make your needs known. Things are overwhelming for you, and you feel like you're crashing and have a hard time with creating a strategy and a plan. So I say to the people listening, if you feel that your life is in a place where you feel stuck and you feel unable to shake it off, a therapist like Michelle right over
Or
here
Avi,
can
or
really,
even Sophie. Where is
and
she?
even
She's been
Sophie.
so quiet the whole time.
Sophie is just knocked out. She's just enjoying a convo. She's in La La Land over here. Sophie, our golden retriever, is with us in the podcast room, just napping and doing what she does best, just being
She
relaxed.
knows how to relax. Look at that. We
She,
can learn from Sophie
yeah,
how to relax.
animals have this incredible way of just knowing how to just do the things that make them feel calm. Whether it's licking themselves, cleaning themselves, playing with a toy,
Self-care.
self care, exactly. We can always learn something from animals.
Yes.
So, what I wanted to say as a takeaway is that what I learned from you today is that there's so many parts to us as humans, and not being so critical of ourselves,
Yeah.
and knowing that,
But that's a part too. That little inner critic, that's a part. It's
oh,
trying to help us too. It
look at
just
that.
yeah, it's like my mom likes to say it has a funny way of showing it.
So before we end off, there's something I wanna do. You wanna try? So this
Sure.
is this is something interesting. So this is a stress ball that I
Okay.
have in my therapy room that I do sometimes with my clients. And this one specifically is, there's many different ones. This one is specifically about stress. So I
Okay.
throw the ball to you.
Let's hope
You
I can catch it.
are you stressed about it?
Not really. Let's see what happens.
So I like that. Yeah, keeping an open mind. So you catch the ball wherever your thumb lands on. That's the question you read, and then you answer it.
All right.
Ready? Here we go.
Okay, I'll use 2 thumbs so I get
Oh,
more
you
options.
got it.
Oh. Okay. When I'm stressed, I try to take a deep breath. I know that sounds so therapist-y of me, but I do think that that does wonders. Like sometimes it takes a while to get to that place where you're like, I need to take a deep breath. But just breathing will like regulate, it'll
Yeah.
bring it down. Do I throw this back at you now and try to
That was such a therapist question. That's not fair.
Okay, so you could throw it at me again,
Okay,
but try to get it into my hands.
Ready?
Oh, I was throwing it to
There we
you.
go.
When you're busy, what's first to get cut from your routine? okay, this is me being human. Is the self-care. It's probably the first thing to go because we got to do the things that are priority. But um this is kind of like a what you shouldn't do.
Uh-huh.
So don't listen to what I said with that. But what really, if I'm giving it conscious thought, is that we're very much like we have this like inner gas tank
Mm,
um in terms of self-care, and we're, that tank, if it runs on empty, it's not going to do well for us. So
right.
what we need to do is we need to fill up. So that's the first thing that does get cut is the self-care. Of what's funny?
Yeah. Everyone has their way of figuring out what kind of makes them feel, stress free. For me, it's animals. I love my
That's
animals.
awesome.
And what would that? What would that be for you?
I feel like you're asking me way too many questions, but
Okay,
we
you
could do
ready?
yours.
Do
I'd like to know what was really funny because you deflected earlier.
I was actually
Did the
thinking.
gas tank analogy not sit well with you?
No, I actually really love that, and I agree. I feel like we have a vessel. Well, similar to
Yes,
gas tank,
people
right?
call it a cup, people call it a tank.
Yeah,
We have to make sure
exactly.
that we're not running on
Right.
empty, and that self-care is not selfish.
I always use the analogy of, the airplane, the gas,
You're
and
about to laugh.
no, I'm
Okay.
serious. And you have to make sure that you're okay before you can take care of someone else because you don't
Yeah,
want to be
the
running on
mask.
empty. 100%.
Yeah,
You ready?
I'm ready. I'm gonna try to aim it into your hands.
Thank you. Good catch, Avi.
Good catch,
All right.
Avi. I'm sorry.
Let's see. Do
I see you
you?
moving your thumbs
I
around.
am. What most relaxes you?
Okay.
What most relaxes me? Um, I would definitely say, I mean, this is so typical.
It's okay.
Do you
It
know?
has to be simple.
Do you know what I'm gonna say?
Is it gonna be Sophie?
It's gonna definitely be my animals. I feel like my animals, just when I take care of my animals and I'm with them and feed them and groom them and do all of that, I just feel like it puts me into this like Zen zone.
Love that.
So
Actually, is it okay if we do one more mindfulness thing
okay,
using your
sure,
animals? I'm so
yeah.
sorry to cut you off. But there's actually this technique called heart math.
Hmm.
It's very simple to do,
Okay.
but I just cut you off.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
It just you had me with the animals, and I
You're
was like,
good.
this would be a great opportunity
This
to throw
is,
in
yeah.
this really simple exercise. So if you're gonna breathe regularly, just in through your
Okay.
nose and out
Okay.
through your mouth, and just notice that area around your heart,
Okay.
and just keep breathing regular. And thoughts are gonna come into your mind, and that's the chatter, and you can let it go as it comes. But what you're gonna do now is you're gonna pair this breathing together with something that you're grateful for. It might be your animals or something that brings you joy or peace,
Okay.
and just continue to breathe with that feeling of gratitude. And I'm gonna do it with you too. And so you're just breathing in that concept, and yeah,
I'm not even kidding. I want to share something with you.
yeah.
As you said that, I just this image came up in my head, like just a huge vessel, and it was almost like a visual that I feel like
Cool.
it's like f- overflowing in terms of just like filling up with just like this warm, comfortable feeling inside.
Love that.
I feel like, and I'm for those that are listening, I'm not just saying it. I also allowed my head, my mind to go there. A lot of times, people, one of the things that I do is hypnosis, and
Yeah.
oftentimes you hear people say, "Oh, try to hypnotize me." You can, right? The thing is, it's guided imagery, really. You have to allow your head, your mind, your thoughts to go into that space. And when you do, you can absolutely allow yourself to feel better.
Yeah.
So, once again, Michelle, I wanted to say it was such a pleasure to do this podcast with you, to do this episode.
Thank you for
And
having me. This was fun.
this really was.
And if I apparently have to practice my
Your
catching skills. Yeah.
It was my throwing skills. That's what I think it was.
It's okay.
But I just wanted to say thank you so much. You shared so many important concepts, and just the way that you shared the mindfulness techniques, I feel like that's a takeaway that everybody can do today. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're going to a meeting, if you want to do something that's out of your comfort zone, try it out. If you're
Yeah.
listening to this, try it out, give it a shot.
Yeah.
And really, we're here, two therapists, two humans
Two
trying
humans who happen to be
who
therapists.
happen to be therapists. Love how you said that. Who really just want to share a positive message. That's really what it
Yeah.
is. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening,
Thank you for
for
having me.
supporting. And of course, if you guys have any questions or thoughts or ideas, anything you'd like to share, feel free to send me an email and I will absolutely make sure to respond. And this was incredible. This
This was
was
so much
awesome.
fun. Thank
What
you.
are your last thoughts? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, because I think that the mindfulness can be so simple. It's even like the things we're already doing. If we just pay attention to what we're doing, you're having your coffee, just just sit there and notice the color of your coffee, notice how it tastes, notice how it smells, notice how it feels, the temperature. Like you can start this today. It's just literally paying attention, living in the moment,
Look at
I feel
that.
like.
Living in the moment. You guys can check out Michelle Werdyger-Vais. Check her out on Instagram and all those social platforms, and message her for any insight, any questions, anything you'd like. I'm definitely going to share her contact here. So thank you
Thank
guys so
you.
much for
Thank you,
joining.
everyone. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Avi.
Of course.